Teacher Mike Dalton has the evidence to prove that his approach to teaching reading works. Reading standards have improved significantly over the past couple of years and are now well ahead of the national average. Mike is convinced that progressive teaching methods have a lot to answer for.
I think too much was made in academic circles of the benefits of the various other approaches other than phonics, and unfortunately phonics got left behind. I think it had a very detrimental effect, and I do think that we're reaping the whirlwind with many adults now, unfortunately, being taught a variety of methods which was not conducive to their reading development.
The government set tough new targets for reading achievement. By September next year, all primary schools will have a special literacy hour that must include phonics. But is there a role for parents in deciding what goes on in the classroom? We took Kathy to meet the man responsible for standards in schools, Stephen Byers.
If a parent's really concerned with regards to the way their child is being taught to read, what can they do about it? Who can they turn to?
It really is important that parents like yourself raise with the school the methods that they're using. What we've got to do, if we are serious about improving standards for most of our children, for all of our children indeed, is that parents themselves feel that they can go along to the school and say to a teacher, look, I need to know how you're teaching my child. Why is he or she not performing in reading as well as he or she should be?
Now, Kathy and Thomas are with us. Kathy, you heard the minister's advice, but you felt you couldn't do that with the school. Why not? I didn't feel that confident at the time that I could approach the school. I didn't know then what I know now at the onset of Thomas's problem. I also didn't want to antagonise the school. As it's mentioned in the film, Thomas was very happy there. And I think also initially I thought perhaps the problem was mine. It was for me to sort. It's only later on I've realised it's a much wider issue. And I would feel far more confident now than in saying, yes, I would approach the school. But I think you have to be very careful. How far do you take it that it becomes detrimental to Thomas? Mary, you're an English advisor here representing English teachers. What do you think, mixed methods or phonics?
I would say I haven't found any English teachers in my authority or in the schools that I inspect who don't teach phonics. Phonics is very firmly there in the national curriculum documentation, and phonics is part of that mixed approach. Obviously I can't enter into discussion on individual schools because I don't know the context of those schools, but I am surprised perhaps that some of those phonics strategies are left so late, because that hasn't been my experience.
It's a very easy thing to say, isn't it? Mixed methods. Oh, of course phonics is there, but is phonics there as 50% or is it there as 2% or is it there as 90%? I mean, that's really, you know, at the end of the day, what matters.
Right. I'm afraid I do have to bring you back to the national curriculum because that's a statutory requirement. It's what teachers have to teach. And phonics is very firmly there as one of the aspects of the teaching of reading. It's one of the key skills there, but it isn't privileged over other aspects of reading, but equally it isn't in a lower position than other aspects.
Now, Bonnie Macmillan, you've written a book, Why Children Can't Read. What do you think? What's best?
Well, it's true that all teachers do teach phonics. They all say they teach phonics. There's solid evidence that all teachers use a mixture of methods to teach reading. But the mixture of methods is really a smokescreen. It's a useful label to hide what actually is going on. Reading has been redefined. No longer do children are they taught to read. They are taught to memorize and guess. All children can learn to read within 10 weeks, the first term of school. All children, regardless of their individual differences or the background. The research is unequivocal and solid on this.
Bonnie says it's a smokescreen, this mixed method.
What I would have to say is look at the results that are there in many, many schools.
Yes, but the results overall aren't good, are they? 40% of children are failing at age 11.
The result has been a devastating decline in reading standards.
Well, it would be very difficult to mention research here because obviously, you quote some research, I quote another. And it depends really too on your definition of reading. I think we have very competent readers in our schools. I'm not being complacent. In my authority, we are constantly trying to improve. Teachers in my schools are totally committed.
Okay, Bonnie, are we competent or incompetent?
I would like to say that I believe all teachers are well-meaning. The trouble is, in teacher training colleges, they haven't been taught how to read phonics.
Well, maybe that is being resolved at the moment. Ken Follett, welcome. Ken, most of us would know you as a very, very successful author. I think you've sold over 45 million books worldwide. Now, you became a member of the government's National Literacy Task Force. Why? Why did you put yourself at the heart of this debate?
Well, David Blunkett suggested in a speech that we should have a national year of reading, and I dropped him a line saying, I think this is a terrific idea. And he wrote back to me and said, if you think it's such a terrific idea, you can help organise it. So that's how I got onto the Literacy Task Force. I learned an enormous amount about this, and I was very struck by what Bonnie said about teachers not knowing how to teach phonics, because that was something that we learned on the task force. A lot of teachers themselves say that they feel they've never been taught properly how to teach reading. And so the first recommendation of the Literacy Task Force was that there should be more in-service training for teachers who want to, as it were, go back to school and relearn how to teach reading.
Ultimately, are you recommending more phonics or less phonics?
I think there's a consensus. I think everybody involved in this now agrees that we need more phonics. I don't think that's the problem. I don't think it's quite as controversial as some people seem to think. There's general agreement that this is absolutely a key part of learning to read, because learning to read and write involves realizing that words can be broken down into bits. And that's what phonics teaches you.
All right, so in your view, things are going to get better?
Absolutely, I hope so.
All right. Well, the National Year of Reading begins in September next year. We'll have to wait to see if reading standards improve.
Thomas learned to read, not from one-to-one teaching by Jennifer Chu, but because he was learning from step by step. Jill Downey's success with a class of poor children, 70% on free meals, was due to the fact that she was using my step-by-step. Anybody can teach reading if they have the right tools. And on this just one chance, there was no mention of me or of what really matters, step by step, a phonics program of decoding.
Just you know why. Just you know why you and I will by and by know true love ways. Sometimes we'll sigh, sometimes we'll cry, and we'll know why. Just you and I know true love ways. Throughout the day, our true love ways will bring us joys to share with those who really care. Sometimes we'll sigh, sometimes we'll cry, and we'll know why. Just you and I know true love ways. Sometimes we'll sigh, sometimes we'll cry, and we'll know why. Just you and I know true love ways. Throughout the days, our true love ways will bring us joys to share with those who really Sometimes we'll sigh, sometimes we'll cry, and we'll know why, just you and I, no true love